I'm going to call the meeting to order. I want to welcome everybody here tonight. It's the January 2023 regular council meeting for Eastern Charlotte, and it's also the first council meeting for Eastern Charlotte. So I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. It's kind of a snowy night out there in the area, and so it's great to have an audience tonight for our first council meeting. The meeting starts at 7 p.m. and I'm going to go to our CAO to introduce the council tonight.
Thank you, Your Worship. First on the agenda is recording of... first on the agenda is the recording of oaths of office. The following members of council for Eastern Charlotte were sworn in on Monday, December 19th, 2022. Mayor John Craig, Councillor Terry Lee, Ward 1, Councillor Michael Thompson from Ward 2, Councillor Alexa Diderakis from Ward 3, Councillor Adam Hatt, Ward 4, Councillor Wayne McCrory, Ward 5, Councillor Daryl Ted, Ward 6, Councillor David Hatt, at large, Councillor Lisa McKay, at large. And in accordance with the Local Government Act, Section 18, all members have signed the Form 1 oath of office, and all forms are on record at the municipal office. Thank you, Your Worship.
Great, thank you. The next thing on the agenda tonight is number 3, the adoption of the agenda. I look for a motion from the floor for that. Councillor Tidd.
I move the adoption of the agenda as presented.
Looking for a seconder for that tonight. Councillor Lee. Question or comment on that motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, and that's passed unanimously. 4 is conflict of interest disclosure. Anybody wants to make a disclosure of conflict of interest? Now is your time to do that. Anything on the agenda? If not, we move on to adoption of the minutes, and there are none because this is the first council meeting, so there's none for the previous council. Business arising out of the minutes, there's none because, as I said, there's no minutes. No delegations tonight. And 8, that brings us to number 8, department reports, and I will go back to our CEO, Jason Cadet.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just for the month of January, staff has been busy with a variety of aspects with the reform and the amalgamation of the 2 former municipalities, both on the side of our finances and the accounting system. We have received back the actual budget from the province this week as well, reviewing that to ensure that that is complete. Municipal office at 1 School Street in St. George, undergoing some renovations. We've now once again brought back a mayor's office so residents can go in and set up a meeting to talk with the mayor, and doing some renovations to the kitchen, the common area that's used by not only staff but the fire department as well, and public works. So we're continuing to do that work. We're also looking at just getting underway with some of the annual event planning that has been taking place in both the municipalities and the rural areas. So it's been a very busy first part of this year. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Jason. That brings us to, there is no fire report tonight or public report, and we will have all those reports next month. Number 9, accounts paid and payable. We have a motion for that tonight.
So nothing because of the month of, we would do accounts payable for the previous month. So there would be nothing that would be for Eastern Charlotte. All accounts paid and payable for both the former municipalities are on file with the municipal office.
Great. That brings us to number 10, old business, which there wouldn't be any old business. So, and that brings us to the highlight of the night. We've got quite a few things to get past tonight. The first one is deputy mayor. We have to vote for a deputy mayor tonight, and we actually have a procedure that has to be followed. The first thing I would do, I will now call for nominations for deputy mayor. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Hatt, you mean? Yes. Yeah. Councillor, sorry, David Hatt. Sorry. We got 2 hats. Councillor David Hatt. Any other nominations?
I nominate myself.
Councillor Hatt. I forgot to check with Councillor David Hatt. Councillor, would you be willing to serve as deputy mayor? Okay, I have to make sure. Okay, any other nominations? Any other nominations?
After much consideration, I'll nominate myself.
Okay, Councillor Tidd. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? That's it. I conclude the call for nominations. I need now a motion on the floor to cease nominations. So I need a motion for that. Councillor McQuarrie. And the seconder, Councillor Dedirakis. All those in favor of closing the nominations signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, and it's passed unanimously. I'll turn this over. Oh, the next thing I have to ask is I ask each nominee, they have the opportunity now to speak on their behalf for the other councillors. I'll go to Councillor Hatt to my left first. I'm sorry, Councillor David Hatt. I'm not used to that yet.
Under much consideration, I guess I let my name stand. I think I could be fair and represent the whole area. That's all.
I'll go to Councillor Admet.
Myself, I agree that being fair as well, and being a deputy mayor before in a municipality and working closely with Mayor John Craig on the last council, that's why I feel I'm a good candidate.
And I'll go to Councillor Tidd.
Your worship, fellow councillors, I'm putting my name forward because I want to help create a culture where we all can have our differences but still work together as a council. I believe the group of leaders we have around this table with a diverse set of skills, I can assist in the team coming together for community aspiration and goals. I want to be a little bit more specific about what I might bring to the role of deputy mayor. Firstly, supply support to the mayor. This, to me, means the following. Full commitment. This council and community has my full attention. I remain independent, strong, and supportive of our mayor. Provide another conduit between the community, councillors, mayor, and sharing responsive and engaged communication. I would like to establish better communications and create standards that we are all accountable for, having team values we all respect. In my opinion, this council faces real challenges ahead between community perception and reality, and it's up to each of us to promote Eastern Charlotte and, importantly, each other in the best light possible. I hope this will result in building trust between us all, good communication, good sound decision-making, and most importantly, better community outcomes and interaction. For me, being deputy mayor isn't about a title, it's all about responsibility. I believe I possess the relevant experience, including having served as chair, president, board member of many professional organizations throughout my career, one of which being vice president and chair of a 9,500 member organization, along as serving as counselor many years ago. My ability to communicate, listen, I believe is an asset to the deputy mayor's position. I have the time, passion, education, commitment to fulfill the role, and if you know me at all, I'm an all-in kind of person. This isn't about a competition for the title. It's about choosing a deputy mayor that can support the vision and responsibility of our council. Every elected council member in this room has a responsibility to bring this team together. It isn't up to one of us, it's up to each of us. Not one of us has the monopoly on good ideas, and going forward, we have the right to have our ideas heard on behalf of the community reserve. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Tidd. Okay, we're going to be carrying out the vote here in a second. Just want to remind council that in order to be the deputy mayor, you have to have 5 votes. You have to do that. I know, so the first round, we probably won't get 5 votes, but I will turn it over to our CEO at this point, and he will do the voting to find out who's voting for who.
Thank you, Your Worship. So how we will do voting is we'll announce the first candidate. Each councillor, including the councillor that is nominated, shall or can vote for themselves. So we'll do that, identify by raising your hand in favor. I guess, does anyone have any questions? Come to voting.
Yes, do you only vote for one candidate? Or
Yep,
one
you can vote.
person, or is it just?
Yep. Yep.
Thank you, Jason, for clarifying that.
So first nominee is Councillor David Hatt. All councillors asked to please show support by raising your hand.
5 moves.
Okay, thank you.
That's the majority of the council.
That is majority of council, yep. So we'll run through this. So Councillor, for Councillor Adam Hatt. Okay. Okay. And for Councillor Darrell Ted. Okay, so for your worship, for Deputy Mayor, Councillor David Hatt has has 5, 1, 2, 3, 6, and Councillor Adam Hatt 1, Councillor Darrell Ted 1.
Congratulations, Deputy Mayor Hatt, David Hatt.
I'd like to thank everybody.
Okay. The next item on the agenda tonight is the municipal designation, and I'll look for a motion from the floor on that. I mean, okay, why don't we do a prelude? Okay, we're going to do a quick prelude on that. Jason's going to just give a little bit background on this before a motion is made.
So just on the subject of municipal designation, just to give a little bit of background, briefing notes have been distributed to council. So in early May 2022, the province started discussions with members of Entity 53, Transition Committee on determining the type of government for this government. Options were reviewed from a document titled Local Governance Reform, type of government discussion table that was distributed to the facilitation or the transition members. The document, a copy, has been provided to council as well. It gives the types of government and the requirements for each based on the province's Local Governance Act and the Community Planning Act. The document also states requirements both legally, such as population limits and bylaw requirements, as well as the requirement on services provided. Certain types of government require certain services, so cities require different level of services as well as villages and towns. On May the 24th, the Transition Committee selected rural community, and that recommendation was accepted by the minister. It should be noted that senior municipal staff from both St. George and Black Arbor were not in attendance for the meetings on type of government, so we were unable to give any type of views on the matter. The outline of the Eastern Charlotte as a rural community was stated under Section 67 of the Provincial Regulation 2022-50, which is basically the reform. Under a rural community, our local government will have the minister provide some services. For Eastern Charlotte, those services are police protection and dangerous and unsightly premise enforcement. For 2023, the Eastern Charlotte is going to be paying over $140,000 for services provided by the minister, though the cost of police protection has already been identified, so we'd assume that $140,000 is going to be paid to the province for dangerous unsightly. Keeping in mind that dangerous unsightly bylaw for both the former village of Black Arbor and the former town of St. George, both of those bylaws are still enacted, and enforcement will be done by the local government. Furthermore, there are questions and serious concerns on how being a rural community will impact the future recalculation of the unconditional grant from the province. The fund has already seen a reduction from $709,000 a year for Eastern Charlotte to $513,000 for this year for Eastern Charlotte. So it's a fairly large decrease. The concern there is the calculation that we get from the province is based off of where your category of municipality is. So cities are calculated differently than towns. Towns are calculated differently than villages, and rural communities are calculated different than all the rest. So the calculation that when we achieved the $513,000 was based off of having a village and a town in the equation. So both of those removed. We don't necessarily believe that we'll see an increase with unconditional grant. In addition, in the Local Governance Act, the province's own definition of a municipality is a town, city, or village and it omits the rural community from the definition. So we were actually even confused as staff if Eastern Charlotte is deemed a municipality. When the village of Alma, Riverside, Albert, Hillsborough amalgamated with 6 LSDs, much like us, very large area, and they merged into Fundy Albert, they maintained the type of government as a village. Some very brief discussion was had with their transition, and they chose not to pursue any rural communities. In fact, there's only one other town that is in town and village amalgamation that has gone to a rural community, and that's Nakawik. They've gone to a rural community as well. And the designation of, both our neighboring communities of St. Stephen and St. Andrews have maintained the type of government as towns. The designation of rural community has long been considered a stepping stone towards growing as a new local government. So certainly my recommendation, CAO clerk, that Eastern Charlotte be reconsidered as a town for the type of government.
Thank you, Jason. What I'll do, again, I'll look to the floor now for a motion. Councillor Ted?
I make the motion that Eastern Charlotte move from a rural community to a town for the type of municipal government designation.
We have a motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Lee. At this point, we'll go to question or comment. Anybody wants to make any questions or comment on the motion? Councillor Dederakis.
As of now, I've received limited information about the types of government. I know we're currently a rural government, but our clerk is, our CAO is advising us that we become a town or a village. And I believe that because this matter is a bit dense, and we just got this information very recently, I propose that maybe we take some more time to actually reconsider this.
Any other questions or comments on the motion? Councillor McKay.
My question would be, going to a town, how does that affect the villages that have never been considered a town, like the village of Back Bay, or like how does that affect the people that live in those villages? Would there be higher taxes? Like how does it work? Because I'm like Councillor Dederakis, I don't understand a whole lot about it.
If I can. So we already know that $141,000 is going to be paid to the minister for services rendered. If we were outside of that, a town and able to administer dangerous unsightly in those rural communities, we'd be saving $141,000. So as far as taxes going up and offering new services, it does allow for the local government to have more authority in those rural areas to affect change. If people were from Penfield or Back Bay were to come in here and say, we want change, we want a property to be enforced under dangerous unsightly, we would have to reference them to the province. That's where we're paying for that service. So as of right now, people in the rural community of Eastern Charlotte, out in the rural areas, they know that many of them have probably called the province on a number of occasions for different properties and have not really seen much activity. We don't see anything that's going to indicate that's going to change. At least here with the local government, you would have the ability with staff locally to do those changes. So I mean, as far as will taxes go up, we're seeing an increase of taxes already with the rural areas coming into being part of the municipality. If anything, I see the taxes will continue to go up if we don't get the conditional grants that we get today. That is the biggest concern I have right now, and expressed by other CAOs across the province, is that as the province continues to recalculate that, we're going to go from 709,000 in 2022 to 500-some-thousand this year. We could continue to see that decrease, and that's an overall concern. So and the province's explanation on this could say that, well, rural communities don't need money because you have less services, which is not the case in the existing, former town or the former village. We are providing services in town levels, in village levels. The other thing too is For anything other, like memberships of municipal memberships into, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, or the Union of New Brunswick Municipalities, even our own insurance, they view us as a large town based on population, based on assessment. So things are going up from there. We saw a 40% increase on the total insurance paid by the whole Eastern Charlotte of 2022 to an insurance bill for Eastern Charlotte of $215,000 because the insurance companies are viewing us as a large town. So there's nothing for them to say that, oh, you're a rural community, you're going to save money. There's unfortunately not. So you compound that with the fact that we could be looking at losing some unconditional grant money. There's really, I don't see the benefits there as being remaining a rural community. It certainly is, like I said, a stepping stone. A lot of smaller communities, or communities like Canwell, they become organized. They start out as a rural community and then they move into other levels of government. We've kind of done a sort of a backwards twist here. So, but again, does that answer your question? I can ramble on. Yep.
I'm not going to get into debate because I'm not allowed to, but I guess the bottom line is if we can get more money as a town with their unconditional grants, that will help the tax rate everywhere, not just in the Back Bay area or Bonnie River, but everywhere. The more money we have, the more things we can do. So that's the bottom line, really, is the money part. Yep. Oh, absolutely. No, you can have the floor.
I'm just concerned about the citizens that we were elected to govern. That is my bottom line, how is this going to affect them and their communities that they live in? That is my main concern.
Any other questions or comments from council? Councillor Thompson first.
I feel we should table this for at least 30 days so we can get all the information. The province has changed the rules a number of times on different things through the whole transition period. We have to make sure that we make the right move.
I'm going to go to Councillor Hatt. Yeah, Adam Hatt.
Your Worship, if it's okay, I'd like to ask our CAO a question.
Oh, please do.
So the 709 to 513, the reduction that we'll see in the unconditional grant, and the $140,000 that we will have to pay to, I suspect, to the minister, that number, the two of them together, will that not be passed right on to the taxpayers in a tax rate increase to make up the difference?
The 141,000?
Yeah.
It will be, yes. Yeah, it's been budgeted this year that, we've already budgeted the 141 to come out of taxes. So, and that was because, we knew the minister would be providing services as a rural community. So if we didn't have that, that'd be $141,000 off of budget.
Any other questions or comments on this motion? If not, I'm going to take it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Okay, maybe I can just hold your hands out just for a second because I'm Councillor Lee, Ted, Councillor Hatt, Deputy Mayor Hatt, sorry. Okay, all those against the motion. Councillor McKay, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Dedirakis, and Councillor McCory. That's a 4-4 split. You guys are putting this on me my first meeting. I listened to both sides and I've done some research on it. I'll vote in favor of the motion. Therefore, the motion's carried. On to the next item is municipality name, C, and look for a motion from the floor.
I worked with the transition committee. The whole naming process I feel was flawed in the way that they took.
Councillor Thompson, what I have to do, I have to have a motion first.
Okay.
Okay, so you go ahead and make a motion, or if you like.
Make a motion.
Pardon me?
I'd like to make a motion.
Yeah, you please do.
You need a second?
Okay, your motion is what?
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to change the name of Eastern Charlotte to Coastal Charlotte.
Okay. Do we have a seconder on the here to make for that motion? Okay, I got, Councilor Dedirakis was first. Okay, question or comment on the motion? Go to Councilor Thompson first.
Eastern Charlotte, the naming process was flawed, I'd feel. We put boxes out in various places in the post offices. Canada Post told us they weren't allowed there. We had to move the boxes. People didn't know where the boxes were. There was areas in this Eastern Charlotte that probably weren't represented the way they should have because they just didn't know where to vote or they didn't know who to get the vote to. There was 0.3% difference between Eastern Charlotte and Coastal Charlotte. The rules that the government put forth, they really weren't followed. We were supposed to look forward, community vision, marketable, catchy, attractive, something to bring people out and are strengthened. I feel that if you're going to bring people into the community, we shouldn't have started with a name that was the name of a high school 50, 60 years ago. We're supposed to be looking forward, not to the past. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I think Deputy Mayor, you had your hand up.
The only thing I have to add is technically, if you look at geography alone, we are not Eastern Charlotte, we're more central. So the name in itself doesn't fit where we are.
Councilor Hatt.
The only thing about opening this back up is that the taxpayers of Eastern Charlotte, which the name is of right now, had their chance to vote and a democracy was used. I don't think it's right as a member of this council to overrule what the taxpayers had voted for.
Any other questions or comments on the motion? Councilor Dedirakis.
If we want to adhere to the fair representation of each ward's votes, then by default, the name would be Coastal Charlotte.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor McKay?
I just feel that moving forward, if we want to envelop tourism in our area, that Eastern Charlotte does not fit that role for that. I think Coastal Charlotte would bring more people in as far as tourism goes.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the motion? If not, all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Let me put your hand up, please.
To change?
Perry?
To change?
Yeah, in favor of your motion, exactly. Councilor Thompson, Deputy Mayor, Councilor Dedirakis, and Councilor McKay. Those not in favor of the motion signify by saying nay. 1, 2, 3. We have Councilor Hatt, Councilor McQuarrie, Councilor Lee, and Councilor Tidd, and you guys are doing it to me again tonight. I'll vote nay on the motion. Therefore, that motion is not carried, and we move on to the next item on the list. Next is a resolution of council to transfer funds from the Blacks Harbor Utility Reserve. And we need a motion on the floor for that. Yeah, to Councilor Dedirakis. You make. No, you have to make a motion first. Anybody want to make a motion? Councilor Lee.
Be it resolved that the Council of Eastern Charlotte of Council approves the transfer of $197,684 from Blacks Harbor Utility Reserve to the utility operations for the purposes to completing payment on project number 222813.00A, sanitary sewer renewals for Blacks Harbor.
We have a motion on the floor, seconded by Councilor Hatt. Okay, question or comment on the motion? Councilor Dedirakis, you have the floor.
Could you please, Your Worship, can you please clarify what is project that is listed here, please?
Your Worship. So this project was for sanitary sewer renewals in Blacks Harbor, in community of Blacks Harbor. So these were done by Fairville Construction and under the engineering of CBCL. Mostly it was manhole access points within the village, and that work was completed up to, I think it was November, the last bit of work that they did.
Any other questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary? And that's passed unanimously. Municipal pension plan motion. I need a motion from the floor.
Be it resolved where the majority of Eastern Charlotte employees are already enrolled in the Employee Benefits Pension Plan administered by the New Brunswick Municipal Employee Pension Plan Council, move that all employees of Municipal Eastern Charlotte enter into the New Brunswick Municipal Employee Pension Plan effective January 1st, 2023.
We have a motion on the floor by Councillor Hatt, seconded by Councillor McQuarrie, just by a hair. Question or comment on the motion? Go ahead, Jess.
Just so everyone's aware that we do have a majority of our staff currently under this pension plan. The other staffs are doing RSPs. So this will be just taking them off of that type of benefit and into this larger plan. This is a plan that's benefiting the majority of municipalities across the province.
Okay. We haven't done a vote on that, have we? No. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary? That's passed unanimously. Okay, next on our docket tonight, we have appointments, and the first one is for clerk. This is basically house cleaning items to do, and I'll look for a motion from the floor. Clerk and CAO. So I need a motion from council. Councilor Dagrakis, do you have the motion right in front of you?
Whereas the Act representing local governance reform has dissolved the municipalities of the town of St. George and the village of Blacks Harbor and created the local government of Eastern Charlotte, and am I correct? Am I reading this correctly? Whereas paragraph 71(1) of the Local Government Act requires every local government to appoint a CAO and clerk, and whereas accordance with paragraph 11(2)(h) of Act respecting local governance reform, Minister Danielle Alain, Minister of Local Government and Local Governance Reform, has previously made this appointment on December 8th, 2022. Be it resolved that Jason N. Gadet is appointed CAO and Clerk of the Municipality of Eastern Charlotte.
We have a motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Thompson, just by a little bit. Question or comment on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary? That's passed unanimously. Next item on the docket is for treasurer, appointment for treasurer tonight. That's the person that pays us. So I'd look for a motion. If nobody goes as treasurer, nobody gets paid. Councillor McKay, thank you very much. Yes, please, if you could.
I move to motion, whereas the Act representing local governance reform has dissolved the municipalities of the town of St. George and the village of Blacks Harbor and created a local government of Eastern Charlotte, and whereas paragraph 71(1) of the Local Governance Act requires every local government to appoint a treasurer, and whereas accordance with paragraph 11(2)(h) of an act respecting local governance reform, Min Daniel Alain, Minister of the Local Government and Local Governance Reform, has previously made this appointment on December 8th, 2022. Be it resolved that Kathy Neves is appointed Treasurer of the Municipality of Eastern Charlotte.
We have a motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Dagrakis. Question or comment? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, and that's passed unanimously. Building inspectors. We have a motion from the floor for that. There'll be two more. There's two motions in front of you. Councillor Tidd, thank you.
Whereas the municipality of Eastern Charlotte has contracted with Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission to obtain professional building inspection services, be it resolved that Kenneth Vernon Faulkner is a building inspector for the municipality of Eastern Charlotte. Be it further resolved that Kenneth Vernon Faulkner shall remain building inspector for the municipality of Eastern Charlotte so long as he remains employed with Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission. Further, it be resolved that Kenneth Vernon Faulkner shall remain building inspector for the municipality of Eastern Charlotte so long as Southwest Service Commission remains contracted to provide building inspection services to the rural community of Eastern Charlotte. And there's a second part to this motion, I believe. Whereas the municipality of Eastern Charlotte has contracted Southwest Service Commission.
Okay, just one second. We're going to do the first motion
Okay.
first. That was my mistake. So we have a motion on the floor, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Question or comment on the building inspector?
The RSC part of this, the Service Commission, have we chose them, or has that been told that we have to use them?
Hasn't been chosen, but we're going off of what was used for the rural communities, the former town of St. George and the former village of Blacks Harbor towards the end with the Service Commission, just the Service Commission. We did put a call out and looking for other types of possible building inspectors. The one that was in Blacks Harbor resigned. He had no interest to serve Eastern Charlotte. We did give him that opportunity. So there's, based on certification, the options are very limited. So at any time, though, if it does come up that we do find someone, we can go back to the Service Commission, change the servicing.
Any other questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary? And that's passed unanimously. I'll go back to Councillor Tidd, and you can finish off the second motion.
Whereas the municipality of Eastern Charlotte has contracted with Southwest Service Commission to obtain professional building inspection services, be it resolved that Michael Joseph Kyle Hall is a building inspector for the municipality of Eastern Charlotte. Be it further resolved that Michael Joseph Kyle Hall shall remain building inspector for the municipality of Eastern Charlotte so long as he remains employee of the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission. Be it further resolved that Michael Joseph Kyle Hall should remain building inspector for the municipality of Eastern Charlotte so long as the Southwest Service Commission remains contracted to provide building inspecting services for the rural community of Eastern Charlotte.
We have a motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Question or comment on the motion? Councillor Hatt.
So does that mean we have 2 building inspectors for Eastern Charlotte?
Any other questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Contrary? That's passed unanimously. We go on to the bylaw enforcement officer, number 4. I look for a motion from the floor. Yeah, Councillor Lee, thank you.
Whereas the municipality of Eastern Charlotte has local bylaws and where enacted under the former village of Blacks Harbor and former town of St. George, whereas the local bylaws remain active and enacted within the boundaries of the former municipalities until such time that they are either repealed and/or replaced, and whereas the local bylaws may require enforcement, be it resolved that Jason N. Gadet is appointed bylaw enforcement officer of the municipality of Eastern Charlotte.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a seconder? A second to Councillor McKay. Thank you. Question or comment on the motion? Councillor Dederack is your first.
What are the duties of the bylaw enforcement officer?
So anytime there's violations, to follow up with, on the violator, to keep active records of any violations or any ongoing open cases that we have. So basically enforcing bylaws. So yeah, that's really it. There's no difference of.
So will you be like driving around the entity and inspecting whether there are bylaw infractions?
There can be, and I guess just I can kind of just with worship just to sort of talk a little bit about this as well. It's not my intent to stay into that role. We have budgeted funds for a bylaw enforcement officer. So we're working with the community of St. Andrews on possibly hiring a group or hiring a person that we could share. Certainly with my duties as CAO and clerk, I don't really have the time to do it. This is more of just a fill gap to ensure that we have someone tomorrow that could to do enforcement. There are still some dangerous unsightly files for both the village and the former village and the former town that are still ongoing that we are going to continue to do and act on. So yeah, it wouldn't be long term. I'm hoping that by the end of this year, we at least find someone to take on that role full time.
Any other questions or comments on that motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Contrary, and that's passed unanimously. EMO Director. We need a motion on the floor. All right, Councillor Hatt.
Whereas Municipality of Eastern Charlotte maintains as a municipal energy emergency response plan, and whereas the municipality works in conjunction with the Department of Justice and Public Safety, New Brunswick EMO, so be it resolved that Jason Gadet is appointed EMO Director of the Municipality of Eastern Charlotte.
We have a motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Lee. Question or comment on the motion? All those in favor of the motion?
I can just make a comment there.
Oh,
So much the same as bylaw enforcement. This is not something that I intend to keep in my wheelhouse for long. So, hopefully over the next year, we will have someone that gets into that role that will, take it on and have the heart to do it and follow it up. But certainly important that if, tomorrow we have a state of emergency, that we have someone that is sort of the mediator between the municipality and the province and other agencies. So more of a fill gap.
Great. Yeah, Councillor Hatt.
Was there one for the town and the village before January?
In St. George there was. That was myself for St. George. I believe Blacks Harbor may have been, I'm looking for some, I think it may have been Chief Shaw, perhaps. So typically, we will look for somebody that will probably take on more of that role as we go through transition.
Any other questions or comments on that motion? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary? That's passed unanimously. That moves us to number 6, which is the animal protection. I need a motion from the floor. Councillor McKay, great, thank you.
I motion for the Animal Protection Act, or Animal Protection, whereas under the New Brunswick SPCA Act, SPCA animal protection officers have the authority to seize animals, conduct investigations, and, in cooperation with other law enforcement agencies and the Crown Prosecutor's Office, bring charges under the SPCA Act and the Criminal Code of Canada. And whereas the NB SPCA provided animal protection and enforcement for former village of Blacks Harbor, the former town of St. George, and the former LSD areas. Be it resolved that New Brunswick SPCA is appointed the animal protection of the Municipality of Eastern Charlotte.
Thank you, Councillor McKay. I need a seconder for that motion. Councillor Tidd, thank you. Question or comment on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, that's passed unanimously. The last one we have on there tonight is the resolution of council for CHCO-TV to record all the council meetings tonight. So I need... Must have a different one than I do. Oh, you must have added it. Okay, sorry. This is added on. I didn't get the up-to-date one. So I have to back up just one step. We need a motion on the floor for auditor for 2022 fiscal year. Council Deputy Mayor, is that your hand up? Okay. It looked like it from here, so you can go ahead with the motion.
Be it resolved, whereas the act respect of local government. Hello? Sorry. Whereas the act respecting local governance reform has dissolved the municipalities of St. George and the village of Blacks Harbor and created the local government of Eastern Charlotte, whereas paragraph 71/1 of the Local Governance Act requires every local government to appoint an auditor, and whereas the auditor of the former village of Blacks Harbor and the former town of St. George for the fiscal year for the fiscal 2021 year was Teed Saunders. Be it resolved that Teed Saunders Doyle be appointed auditor of the Municipality of Eastern Charlotte for the fiscal year of 2022.
We have a motion on the floor by our Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councilor McKay. Question or comment on the motion?
Just one quick comment on this. So we are able to use optional years with the auditor. Typically, we will tender this out, even though it's below the required tendering levels for the audit. So, and it is a recommendation from the province, just simply because audits can be incredibly confusing next year with the former municipalities and the changeover of the accounting system. It's even going to be even more confusing for the 2023 year. We'll probably do a third option year with them, and then probably get back to regular business of tendering that out in the for the 2024 year.
Great. Okay, all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, and that's passing unanimously. We'll go back to G, which is the resolution of council for CHCO-TV to record council meetings. We have to have a motion on the floor for that tonight. I'll look to the floor. Councilor Lee, seconded by Councilor Tidd. Question or comment on the motion? Councilor Dederakis, you're first.
Specifically, what is the resolution for CHCO?
Do you have the resolution in front of you? I think most people do. We don't have it?
No.
Okay, you go ahead and give them.
Resolution of Council for CHCO-TV to record council meetings. Motion, be it resolved that the Council of Eastern Charlotte approves CHCO-TV to record and broadcast all regular and special meetings of Council of Eastern Charlotte.
Okay, that was the motion by Councilor Lee, but you're just putting it out there. Everybody, second by Councilor Tidd. Any other questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, and that's passed unanimously. Good, you don't have to turn the camera off now. The reason we do that is because you've been officially sanctioned by council to be able to do all our meetings. Anybody else that comes in has to have a motion of council to do it. So that brings us to correspondence. We don't have any correspondence tonight. Public presentation. This is a good one. This has been added to the agenda for this council. Members of the public shall be entitled to address council for 5 minutes with no debate from council on matters of municipal jurisdiction. So if anybody from the audience would like to come forward, we have a podium over here with a microphone. Anybody who's allowed to, we give you 5 minutes to go ahead and talk. Come on, it's gonna be somebody out there. Nobody tonight? But this will be on every meeting. This will be on the agenda. So in the future, if anybody would like to speak on anything municipal, this is your opportunity to do that tonight. If nothing? Okay, you just teased me. Okay, we're going to move on to statements by members of council, and I'll start that out tonight, and then I'll go right around the horseshoe here tonight. Tonight, I wish to announce the committees of council. The first committee is finance, which is probably the most important one because everything revolves around money, as everybody knows. And the chair for that would be Councilor Lee, and the members of that would be Councilor Adam Hatt and our deputy mayor. Number 2 is the public works. The chairperson for that would be Councilor McQuarrie, and the members would be Councilor Lee and Councilor Tidd. Parks and recreation. Councilor Adam Hatt will be the chair for that, and the members of that would be Councilor Thompson and Councilor McKay. Public safety, the chair of that would be Deputy Mayor Hatt. Members of that committee would be Councilor Tidd and Councilor McQuarrie. Fire services, the chair of that would be Councilor Thompson. Members of that would be our Deputy Mayor, along with Councilor Dederakis. Personnel committee would be, the chair would be Councilor Tidd, and the members of that would be Councilor Lee and Councilor Dederakis. 7, the administration committee. The chair of that would be Councilor McKay, and the members would be Councilor McQuarrie and Councilor Thompson. Health services. And the chair of that one will be Councillor Dederakis, and the members of that will be Councillor McKay and Councillor Adam Hatt. On behalf of Eastern Charlotte tonight, I would like to send out a very happy 80th birthday to Ernie Hanley from Back Bay, who celebrates next week on January the 25th. But there will be a party for him in the Back Bay area this Friday. So anybody who wants to go down to Back Bay on Friday evening at 6 o'clock, there's a party for him. And I will be attending that. On behalf of council and myself, I send out our sincerest congratulations to Charles and Janet Levitt of Back Bay, who last week on January the 12th celebrated 60 years of marriage. And Councillor Thompson and myself delivered a certificate to them this past Saturday. On Saturday, January the 7th, I and all of council attended a full day of what I call orientation or onboarding sessions or training sessions, there's many different ways of calling it, which were exceptional. I want to thank our Chief Administrative Officer, Jason Gaudette, and Chris McKinnon for all the work setting this up for council. Council, I know we learned a considerable amount and are feeling a little more comfortable after having that full day. On January the 11th, I attended the Personnel Committee meeting along with Councillor Lee, Councillor Dederakis, and our CEO, Jason Gaudette. It was chaired by Councillor Tidd. On Thursday, January the 12th, in the morning, I attended the sub-regional meetings with our worship Bonnie Morse from Graham and Ann, his worship Denny Cogswell from Fundy Shores, along with their respective CEOs. In the evening, the same day, along with our CEO, I attended the Southwest Service Commission's special board meeting in St. Stephen with all of the mayors, including His Worship Brad Henderson of St. Andrews, His Worship Alan McEachran of St. Stephen, His Worship Ken Stanix of McAdam. And during the meeting, I was elected the vice chair of the Service Commission meetings after being nominated by Mayor Morse of Graham and Ann. Good news from that meeting is that because of our larger population, St. Stephen, Mayor, and myself have 2 votes on that board for the operation and administration of common services. So because of our larger population, we each get 2 votes. Next week, I am back in St. Stephen to meet with the Southwest Service Commission and all the mayors again for the monthly board meeting. Tomorrow afternoon, I will be in St. Andrews to do an interview on CHCO on your town matters. And Vicky's here tonight. So it's great to have you here tonight, Vicky. She's the star of CHCO. On behalf of myself and the Council of Eastern Charlotte, I send out sympathies to the families of Billy Nickerson of Penfield, who passed away on January the 7th, and survived by his wife, Linda Nickerson of Penfield, who was his partner for 53 years, Lee Avery Nickerson, Bill Jr. Nickerson, daughters Bill and Betty Nickerson of Blacks Harbor. Glenn J. Larson, husband of the late Sandra Larson, passed away peacefully at his home in St. George, New Brunswick, on January the 10th after a courageous battle with cancer. Glenn is survived by his 3 boys, Christian of Penfield, Todd of St. George, and Jeff of Whitehorse, Yukon. I send out sympathies to the family of Ralph Emerson Holland, who passed away very unexpectedly this past weekend. Ralph was survived by his partner, Nancy Olad of Back Bay, sons Dominic of Utopia, and daughter Autumn of Back Bay. The passing of Norva Hatt, formerly of Penfield and St. George, and wife of the late Donald Hatt, occurred at the Passamaquoddy Lodge, St. Andrews, on January the 16th, 2023, and she was in her 101st year. Norva is survived by her daughter, Barbara Connell of St. George. Norva was a lifelong resident of Penfield, where she was a long-time member of the Penfield Baptist Church, and she was also a former member of the Fundy Tide Seniors Club. We send sympathies out also to Jerry Norman, the family of Jerry Norman Paul, Ronald James Ellsworth, Joyce Campbell Justison, Muriel Elizabeth Lomax, and Walter Allen McDowell. Also tonight, we send sympathies out to the family of Dale Shaw, Sr. of Utopia. And I'll be a little lengthy with this because Dale Shaw Sr. was very involved with the community. He was the husband of Crystal, his son, Eastern Charlotte Fire Chief Dale Shaw of Penfield, daughters Jan Gilland of Amherst, and Bev Levitt of Blacks Harbor, and Sandy Gillespie of Penfield. Prior to his retirement, Dale came to the St. George area in the late 50s and bought his first business, the BA Service Station in Utopia. He then went on and worked for Connors Brothers in Blacks Harbor and served as constable on the police force. Dale eventually left the police force to manage the garage at Connors Brothers. His management role expanded from not only operating the garage, but to the warehouse and trucking division. During the 1980s, he became president of the Blacks Harbor Transfer. Dale was always community-minded. He served as a longtime member of the Blacks Harbor Fire Department and became chief in 1979 and until 1986. Some of the attributes he brought to the fire department as chief were in addition to the fire station, pagers, and a communication system, as well as a campaign to raise money for the Jaws of Life. And I believe it was probably one of the first Jaws of Life in Charlotte County. It was badly needed extrication equipment. And Dale also created a proper chain of command structure for the fire department. He had a huge involvement in hockey in Blacks Harbor, both of the Minor Hockey Association, where he served as an executive member and coached. Dale was always the go-to guy in the Minor Hockey Association for any and all transportation needs. He's also a manager of several years for the Blacks Harbor Silver Kings organization, and Dale was also instrumental in the formation of the Fundy League, a successful in-house hockey league out of the Blacks Harbor Arena for several years, where he served as president. And as everybody knows, he's also a lifetime member of the PC Party of New Brunswick, and he's always willing to talk politics. Council will be meeting again next Wednesday evening with the be having a meeting with Eastern Charlotte Community Development, and they'll be presenting to council. That's all I have tonight. I'm going to go to Councilor Dadarakis.
Congratulations, Deputy Hatt. This was our first meeting, and I would like to thank everyone that came out tonight. Going forward, I look forward to working with all the councilors, each and every one of you, and with the mayor. When I was previously on council, I took pride in advocating for transparent government that was receptive to the questions and needs of our community, and I look forward to round 2 of the same thing.
And Councilor Hatt. Deputy Mayor Hatt.
I'd just like to thank the community and the council for your support, and I'll do my best to be fair and just, open to help grow our wonderful Eastern Charlotte.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilor Thompson.
I'm good.
I'm going over to my far right, Councilor McQuarrie. Councilor Lee.
I'd just like to say this is my first time being on council, and we have a great team, and hopefully we'll live up to what our expectations are. And thank you all for coming tonight.
Councilor Tidd.
I would just echo those comments. Thanks, everyone, for coming, and I'm sure it will be a learning curve for a lot of us, and I look forward to working with the council and mayor and on the better half of the community to work out maybe some kinks, but bear with us, and we'll do our best.
Councilor McKay.
I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. It's good to see so many faces. I want to say congratulations to Deputy Mayor Hatt. And I look forward to working with this great, wonderful group of people. And it is a pleasure to be able to sit up here and to serve you. And I want to thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McKay. That brings us to the date and location of the next meeting. Everybody ready on the calendars the day after Valentine's Day, so you won't mess up your Valentine's. So Wednesday, February the 15th at 7 p.m. right here at the Macadavic Community Center. I look for a motion for adjournment for tonight. Okay, we have Councilor Dadarakis, second by Deputy Mayor. That's good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming.